All right, we're at the Edinburgh Hotel. It's the Jake Nulph Show. I'm Joe Lodanosky alongside Jake Nulph. Thanks to, of course, Pat Hargis and everybody at the hotel that came down. The old saying, you ask a grown-up question, you're going to get a grown-up answer.
Yeah, right.
Not one that there's a lot to be excited about. The results, certainly, lots of mistakes, correctable things.
Correct.
What is the approach? Because, the positive nature of growing and cultural, like you can't, what's the old saying? You catch, what is it? You catch more bees with honey or whatever.
Than you do venom.
Yeah. So what was it like this week?
The thing is, and I talked to our guys today about it, Joe, and I said, when you look in all three phases of that game on Saturday, credit to Gannon, they made plays in opportune moments. We didn't. And we actually did a lot of things to hurt ourselves in critical moments. And when you play a team with the caliber of Gannon, they're 5-1 for a reason. Curtis and Blanks and their defensive line and that secondary, they gave us some problems. And a lot of that was self-inflicted, but a lot of that had to do with them playing and them seizing the opportunities. I look at the football game, and to recap for people that may not have seen it on Saturday, we take the opening possession all the way down inside the 20. We get into a 3rd and 2 situation. We look. They're playing zero coverage, which means they're loading the box up. They're going to leave us one-on-one on the outside. And we just didn't give our receiver a chance to make a play on that throw. So then we get it 4th and 2. And at that point, opening possession, first series, we had already talked as a staff. I said, if we get in this 4th-3, 4th and 2, 4th and 1 inside that area, we're not kicking field goals. We got to go up and we got to score 7 points. And unfortunately, we threw a ball to our slot where their interior safety made a heck of a play and timed it up. He hit our receiver just as he caught it. And, turnover on downs there. I think if we score 7 out the gate, momentum's going. But, the thing was, you look at the game as a whole, we had them in situations, especially on defense, where we've got it 3rd and 16 from the 16-yard line. It's 3rd and goal. And we just had a lapse, a mental breakdown where our alignment from our secondary wasn't where it should be. And they get an easy pitch and catch, and their receiver makes a heck of a back shoulder play, and they go up 7. Then we turn the ball over, and, it was just once those things start happening, unfortunately, they seized all the momentum, and they made the plays, Joe, and we did not. And we tried to flip momentum back on our side. But they just made way too many plays for that. And, it wasn't like it was all negative. We did some good things, but we didn't do enough good things to win on Saturday.
Now, when you're going back and you've got so many young guys in really important spots, and I think we saw that, a lot.
Right.
When you look at the game film, like I always joke with people, I'm not in the NBA because I ran out of talent. Like, you've got some fixable things here.
Yeah.
Was it situational? Was it you alluded to the one mental lapse?
Yeah.
Is it stuff that can be fixed?
Absolutely. That's I look at our football team and our growth and our progress, and we're not happy being 3-3, but that's what we are. And as the Mike Tomlinism, that's our bed. We're going to lay in it, and everything that we're doing is definitely fixable. We're just. Sometimes we're misaligned. Sometimes it's miscommunication. I wish I could tell you it was just one thing, but in all three phases, there are plays out there to be made, and unfortunately, we're just not making them. And, I had this conversation with our coaches this morning, and I had this conversation with our players this afternoon. Guys have got to make plays, and when they're put in situations to do so and we're not doing that, you always question yourself as a coach, and myself being in charge of the whole thing is, do we have the right guys in the right positions to make plays? And, that's the thing where you look at it, and we've got to find the answers to those questions out. And, I look at the missed opportunities that we had on Saturday, and we faked another punt. Can you believe that, right? And
let's go through. Okay, so when you're in that moment, right?
Yep.
And you guys, I think, you had no splash plays to speak of on either side of the ball.
No.
And then you get forced to try to create your own splash
Correct.
play, and then when it works, what a genius it does. Oh, there's that idiot again, ready for how do you
and he's referring to the idiot as when we tried the second time.
But we always joke about the idiot business because if it works, you're a genius. If it doesn't,
Correct.
You're an idiot. But how do you create the splash plays? I mean, I think that's a fair assessment.
No, you're accurate.
No splash. There was no big no big interception. There was no chunk plays. How do you fix that?
Well, comes down to what I mentioned to start this whole thing was, look at Gannon. They had the big runs, the big passes, the sacks, the interceptions. And when those things get rolling and you play a good caliber football team like Gannon is, you got to counterpunch. And we certainly didn't counterpunch. And if you look at the 3 games that we won, you saw us counterpunching.
Mm-hmm.
If a team made a play, we'd get one back. And the 3 losses, we haven't counterpunched. We did a little bit against Cal. We did a little bit against Shepherd, but not enough. And then Saturday, we just missed opportunities is the biggest thing I can tell you. And unfortunately, when you go -3 in the turnover battle, you're not going to beat anybody. And that's been our Achilles heel. And I had a really positive conversation with this morning, Isaac Bernard. And, we had just mentioned about his growth. And sometimes he just tries way too hard to win the game by himself. And that showed on Saturday. He threw some balls that he shouldn't have. He made some bad decisions. And unfortunately, he couldn't overcome that. And everybody, all 3 phases, not just Isaac, but we didn't make enough of those plays. On special teams, we had a couple nice kickoff returns, but, they didn't really they weren't really kicking deep for reasons, and we kind of knew that heading into the game from a game plan standpoint. But, we didn't have that one big play where we block a punt or that one big play where we block a field goal or the big
because
sack.
Those splash plays, we always talk about momentum. Those splash plays capture momentum.
Absolutely.
And you could be down 17 points, and if you make a couple of splash plays in succession, then that other sidelines, the wheels are turning a little bit.
No question.
It's so important, and it just never seemed to present itself.
No.
And we even said in the broadcast, this would be the time if that were to happen now.
Yeah.
You can get this thing back, get the train back on the tracks, but it never came to fruition.
No, it didn't. And again, credit Gannon and their offense. Curtis at quarterback, is banged up.
Kid's got a gun, man.
Yeah, he's banged up beyond, he's got a bad left ankle. And I talked to him after the game, and I told him, I said, hey, look, I know how much pain you're in. You're going out there, and you're giving your team an opportunity to win. And there's nothing wrong with his arm, clearly. I mean, he's got a big-time arm, and he fits some throws on us. But he's competing. He's going out there through injury, and his offense appreciates that, his leadership, and they're playing really well behind them. I thought their offensive line did a really good job of getting a hat on a hat with some of our situations and freeing up some holes for that run game. And, I look at Curtis was 12 of 17 for $150. Doesn't look like it's certainly not attractive, but boy, was that an efficient football game for 2 tutties. And, he did a really good job of prolonging some drives, converting on the 3rd and shorts and making some throws in some tight windows and coverage. And they were able to run the ball. And unfortunately, that's been an Achilles heel for us on defense. And then the turnovers on offense and not getting those splash plays. We didn't get Thad loose enough. And, unfortunately, Mike left the game early, Mike Watkins, and he didn't return. And, the running back room and I thought the offensive line played much better. I
wanted to ask you this because, I don't want Isaac to think I thought Isaac did a much better job of climbing the pocket.
Yes.
And not running into sacks, essentially. So I think visually – the offensive line, when everybody does what they're supposed to do,
yes.
The sum becomes greater than all the parts. And I mean, there was, early on, I thought he was making really good decisions.
Agreed.
And feeling the game as it came to him. And I thought, that was one thing that we talked about in prior weeks about him taking sacks because he was trying to go side to side with the pressure as opposed to climbing up in the pocket.
Yeah, and again, it wasn't all negative, and that's, I don't want to paint that picture for anybody here, but, we're just talking about the things that Gannon did and we did not in that game. And, anytime you throw 4 interceptions in a football game, credit to their secondary, and that was just, we were behind, and I think that he was just trying to force some things and make things happen on his own. And, his maturity, we had mentioned this morning when I spoke with him, look, that was your 10th start. So now he's hit the double-digit mark, and we just got to continue to get better and improve from this. And bottom line, through all of this silver lining and the red tape, when you look at the 35-17 loss to Gannon, we've got to make more plays. And our guys understand that. The nice thing about football, and particularly us and where we're at right now, is, we can hit the reset button, and we've got another opportunity this week.
I did want to go back to the fake punt, and of course, the first one was to perfection. It was perfect. The second one, I thought it was closer than it was, but it's also difficult having the yards on our side, so it's really hard to see the angle. But you needed something. That felt like one of those moments that, this is the time. How much time do you put in, without giving away the secret sauce here, but how much time, because sometimes an offensive coordinator will run a play specifically just to see what the safety does.
Yeah, to set up the next
And
punch.
then there's a little note made, okay, that's what he did.
Correct.
How much time is your trickeration is just to show, just to see what they do, as opposed to you actually running it?
Yeah, there's a lot of the stuff that goes into that, Joe. And that, it's funny, the trickeration, those are called clever plays. Okay, we like to refer to those as clever plays.
I'll remember that.
That's a shout out to Joe Walton and my college football coach. And we talked about Reed all season, and Reed's an athlete. He's our starting corner. He's also our punter. He
Still
also
no
kicks
return
off.
yards, I think.
No, there's a couple, but you're right. We've been very good in that area, and we got to continue to have it that way. But Reed and I have such really good communication, and this is year 2 of him running this system, and I give him a lot of freedom.
That was my next question. How much of that is Reed making the call versus you making the call?
There's definitely that communication on the sideline when he comes off, and we communicate. Hey, this is what I see. Hey, this is what you see, and we've got to be able to use our special teams as a weapon, especially him, because he's multifaceted. And you had mentioned the first fake punt that we ran. It was he passed it. It was a setup to where, not to give too much away, but we had a look that we liked, and we checked to something, and it was Hopkins. Aaron Hopkins was wide open, and he hit him up the chute for 21 yards. And, we were able to move the sticks, but this is when we talk about the momentum plays. Like, at that point in the game, we needed that. We got it. We just didn't capitalize on it because we didn't get any points off of that. And
which, of course, you hate. Like, I just showed a great fake, and I didn't even get a touchdown.
Yeah, and that's the thing where, and the one that we failed on to start the second half was, we're down 18. We needed some momentum going. It was a 4th and 8 situation, and we had discussed about the look, and we had it. Unfortunately, we just didn't execute it around Reed. So, but we are going to be who we are. That's part of our DNA. I think if you look at the Edinburgh Fighting Scots with our regime, we're going to take chances and opportunities, and we're going to go into games to win them and not lose them.
Jake, the riverboat gambler, Nulph.
Well, I can tell you this. My dad is a very tough critic, and there has been times where he goes, I've raised you better. What are you doing? So there it comes with a catch-22.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because literally that is the idiot business personified. If it works, guy's a genius. If it doesn't, I can't believe he did that. I can't believe. I mean, it's the name of the game. But in both instances, I don't think you had a choice.
No.
I think you had to try to dial something up. It felt. I don't want to say that. You could feel that if you were going to get back into the football game, that was the time that you needed to dial something up. So, all right, we're going to take a quick timeout. This is the Jake Nulph Show at the Edinburgh Hotel. Got our player profile coming up. Also, we are going to look ahead to IUP next week. Back with more right after this. Okay, welcome back to the Jake Nulph Show. This week's player profile, Alan Stritzinger joining us. And, of course, Alan has been – we talk about those splash plays, those chunk plays on the defensive side of the ball. In Tony Papley's defense, you have made a lot of big plays in recent weeks. And I don't know if this – I don't want to say problems. I don't think it was a problem. But you've done a lot of bouncing around. You have been in a lot of not only in this season defensively, but in your career you've done a little bit of bouncing around, which we'll get to as well. How many different positions have you played this year alone?
Okay, let's go. We got 3 positions so far. So we got the nickel position, which is the hawk, the corner position, boundary, and the money position, which is basically like a third safety out there. So, yeah, pretty much.
Now, how much? How different are those roles in terms of, switching from, quarter to quarter or possession to possession? You might get bounced around. How much different are those roles? And I guess the follow up to that would be, do you have to watch 3 times as much film?
It might switch up almost every other play, depending on what the offense is coming out or what they're showing us. So it's just like you said, watching a lot of film. Knowing my keys, just keeping in mind that my mindset has to change once I become a new position. So I have a corner mindset one play, or I might have to have a hawk mindset the next play. So just preparing myself.
Do you have a preference?
I like them all, but the money is probably the best because you can free roam a little bit back there. Corner is fun, but it's like it seemed like I get took out the game a lot. You got to tone into one guy sometimes, and that's decent sometimes. But
now, what about? You don't blitz a whole lot. I think there was early in the year there was some injury necessity and what. Would you prefer to be a single high safety, or would you like to come down in the box and get pressure off the edge?
I like tackling, so I like to be in there. I like to be in the box, So yeah, I love blitzing. That's one of my favorite things.
Now, you've had an interesting story. You had a brief retirement to get back in the game. Tell us a little bit about your story and how you got here.
Well, like I said, I went to Syracuse for 3 years, so that's coming out of high school. I was actually, like you said, about playing positions. I was a running back going into Syracuse. 2017, 2018 in the spring, they asked me to switch to corner. And then they said, okay, you want to be aggressive a lot, so we're going to get you in the box. That's when I became that nickel. And I was like a solidified nickel at that time. And going into 2018 season, 2019 season. And then I decided to transfer once the COVID stuff happened. It was kind of, it was a weird little situation for everybody at the time. So, I didn't really know what to expect with football. So I ended up transferring got with Youngstown State. And I played nickel there. That started off at nickel. Then they moved me to corner. Then I became a solidified corner. And then after that, I ended up running track actually there at Youngstown. So, I didn't think that football was going to, I didn't know what I was going to do, honestly. I just didn't know if it was something that I wanted. And then after taking a couple years off, I knew that I needed to be back in it because, it was fun. So, I wanted to stay involved in it.
I don't think people necessarily understand the work and the time. Obviously you're here now. If you on a typical normal day, could you walk us through like your day? What time do you get up, and how the day unfolds?
Well, I would go back. Let's go a little bit before I was a grad student. Let's say when I was working on my bachelor's degree. So those days. Let's say I would start at about, depending on if we had a workout or not, I'd probably have to wake up at like 6 a.m., get ready for that workout, then eat breakfast right after, go to classes throughout the day, then practice, and then, back to film, and then after that, get as much rest as I could, and then, same repeated cycle after that.
Now, I'm always curious because, there's, watching this afternoon, I was watching the CFL Montreal, and Trevor Harris and Walter Fletcher, who both played here, still getting a paycheck, still doing it. Trevor been doing it for a long time. What did you know anything about the PSAC before you transferred in?
I had some familiarity with it. It's just I had to kind of get a better understanding once, I started getting recruited heavily in the area. I knew a little bit about it, but not as much as I know now. So,
I'm always, people always are, say, oh, well, so-and-so could play there. No, you got to be pretty good to play here.
That's what I tell people. Football is football, no matter where you are. But I see the PSAC is a higher level.
Yeah, and people, oh, well, they're not any good. I'm like, well, yeah, they might not be any good, but 85% of their roster was the best player in their high school team.
Right.
I mean, they're still good players.
Right.
That is certainly it's interesting because again, I'm just mesmerized. They're talking about the Bajan kid might get invited to the Senior Bowl. I mean, kids in this league can really play.
Right.
What's your undergrad degree?
It was communications.
Big money in communications.
All over the place.
What's your postgraduate?
I'm working right now on an MBA, so business administration. Just flowing my way into the business world.
It's a dog eat dog world. Do you have a plan, a preference, or
something like marketing, advertising, something like that? Just still trying to fill it out, But football is the go. So no.
Well, I appreciate you joining us. Alan Stritzinger joining us here on the Jake Nulph Show. Quick timeout. We're going to turn the page ahead and look to the Crimson Hawks. We're live at the Edinburgh Hotel. I appreciate all of you for stopping down. Back with more. Right. Welcome back here at the Edinburgh Hotel, the Jake Nulph Show. Turn the page, look ahead to IUP. Of course, in the PSAC West, no off weeks. The Crimson Hawks are pretty good, and anybody that has paid attention to IUP football historically, this is kind of who they are, what they've been, and what they like to do. And they've got pretty good players everywhere.
Always do. And, obviously I worked for Coach Tortorella and that staff in 2019. I know those guys very well. I consider them friends. They are doing a tremendous job. This is a really good football team. And
oddly, somehow under the radar. Like, I feel I feel like it was Slippery Rock and Cal and – oh, by the way, IUP. Did you get that sense too?
Yeah, they were picked to win the PSAC West, and, I think they're up to 15 in the national rankings now, and, I don't know where they would fit in Super Region 1. But, look, Sexton, great player, tremendous addition to the program. He's a transfer. He's number 2 in the PSAC in passing.
Which that's weird. Like, that's what makes this team different.
Yeah.
Like, when they had – I guess Lenny Williams would have been their last really, high-end type player.
Well, when I was there,
or quarterback.
Maxwell was really good. Quentin Maxwell, when I was there in 19, was a really good player. And, that's the thing where you look at the IUP and this, and you had mentioned, well, they're different. Well, here's they have weapons. Sexton's number, this is an interesting stat for those of you following along at home. So the quarterback's number 2 in the league in passing. Stewart, their running back, is number 1 in the league in rushing, and Dwayne Brown is number 1 in the league, their receiver, in receiving. So, and this is, again, tremendous credit to them and their staff. And, Larry Wilson's first-year offensive coordinator, but I definitely see Mike Campolo's fingerprints all over this where, if you present a light box and you're going to try to take away their weapons on the outside, when I tell you they're going to jam it down your throat, Joe, they're going to mash you.
That has been the MO for ever and ever and ever, amen.
They run outside zone as good as I've seen anybody run it. And then when you want to load the box up, well, between Brown and Ridley on the outside, their catch radius is as big as they just go up and they get the football. And you can tell that Sexton and those guys, they're all on the same page. Whether he back shoulders it, whether he throws it high, whether he throws it when they run around people, it starts with the run, and then if you want to start loading that box up, they have weapons on the perimeter that'll hurt you. Grant Smith is as good of a tight end as you'll see in this league because he's a viable option in the run game, and then he can stretch you vertically in the pass game. All 5 of those offensive linemen are big, physical, athletic, long. And that's just the offensive side of the ball we're talking about. When you get to the defensive side, their D-line is exceptional, and I know they're missing Fowler, and I understand he had an injury, and I hope he's recovering well. But he's a dynamic pass rusher for them. But insert the next guy because, You're looking at a Vaughn Wallace and you're looking at a Will Mayer, and they just have all of these weapons. Their D tackles are massive, and it starts with Ronye Mitchell, who's been there for a while. Then you go second level, and you've got Connor Kelly, who Edinboro fans should remember was here, and then he transferred. And then they got a young guy, and Drew D'Annunzio-Biss, who stepped right in this season and has played exceptional. He's physical. He runs side to side. He gets downhill and hits you. And then let's talk about their secondary. And for those of you following along at home in the national news, I'm sure you saw SportsCenter Top 10 where Darius Bruce makes an incredible play with a one-handed interception, OBJ in it, opposite hand on a comeback route. I mean, there's a reason that they're 15 and there's a reason that they're undefeated. I mean, this is a really solid, physical, from top to bottom, exceptional football team.
And of course, Coach Tortorella. You know what happened last year.
Of course, you want to bring that up. We're living in this is 2022.
Wins are wins. We talk about wins.
I hear
no, I mean this is a very good football team.
Yeah,
and strength of schedule wise, this is where things get very weird with the way the PSAC works. You look at California. Think about it. They've played 6 games.
Yeah.
And who have they played? Like this is what makes this league so difficult.
Absolutely, because if you get the draw in the East like Cal had, where you got to go Kutztown, Shepherd, and you look at IUP in the schedule, they've just beat Slippery Rock and Cal. And I look at it's funny how much of a difference a year makes. Where last year, IUP at the end of the game lost that football game in heartbreaking fashion, where this year they were on the other side of it and won the game at the end. So, every week is a different challenge and a different opportunity. And you had mentioned in our conference, you better show up and, by the way, you're going to play X, Y, and Z, and you better be ready to go. And, our guys are excited for the opportunity and the challenge. We've seen 2 top 25 opponents already, and I know Cal's not necessarily ranked in that, but we talk about how good they are. They just unfortunately have come across.
And you think about how good they could be if a couple
plays go
the other way. I mean, they had Shepherd and IUP on down on the mat.
Absolutely, and now you're looking at IUP who beat Slippery Rock the week before, was in the top 10, I believe, when they beat them.
I think they were 8, if I'm not mistaken.
And then they just beat Cal. And, they are – and, I look at the IUP program, and, again, you credit to Coach Signetti's, big guy who unfortunately had passed away, and we had mentioned that on the show earlier. And, it started there, and, Coach Tortorella and the staff, those guys have been there forever with Jim Smith and Mike Campolo. And, that's a credit to them and the staff. They don't miss a beat. It's just, I look at it like a machine. They take a gear and they go, okay, we're going to take this gear out and we're going to put a new one in. And it's IUP football to its core. They're going to line up and mash you and run the ball and then throw it over your head. And they're going to play really sound, tough, physical defense.
Yeah, certainly. And again, that the recepe's not changed.
No,
I mean, it's been that way. Going back to the days of Tink Stennett in the 90s. That's how they've always played that way. That's been their MO. That's been their identity.
Right, and then you look at a dynamic player that Dwayne Brown is, and I got a little bit of a different relationship with Dwayne Brown because a lot of people don't know that we went to the same high school. So I've known Dwayne since he was a young man, and when you see the things that he's doing on Saturdays, it's no surprise because I'd have to see him every day in practice when I was there in 2019. I mean, the catches he made in the opener against East Stroudsburg, and then in the second half of the Slippery Rock game, he just took over. And, so you look at it and you go, okay, well, if you double him, all of a sudden Ridley this past week against Cal went off. And he was getting the single coverage and making the big plays. So, they're going to literally line up and they're going to say, okay, how do you want to defend us? Well, if you want to load the box up and stop the run, we're going to throw it over your head. And if you want to play the game light, we're going to jam it down your throat. And that's what makes them so dangerous.
Yeah, and that's always been their thing, is that they might not throw it a lot, but their yards per completion were always a ton because they get into that 22 personnel and, they're going to play action. And you have no choice but to be man-to-man out there on the edge.
Absolutely.
And literally dates back to the early 90s. That's the way that they've operated their business. Before we go, I think I already know one of the answers, and it's going to be you need to be plus in the chunk plays, in the momentum. You got. I took one of your answers already.
No, yeah, that's.
I mean, this is this is a big ask. I mean, this is a very good football team. 2 reasons you win, 2 reasons you lose.
Yeah, I think that you. So if you look at the game from a year ago, and I know you'd brought it up, but limiting the chunk plays in the big plays and then tightening up in the red zone, holding them to field goals was really ultimately why we had a lot of success, and we made the splash plays that we had talked about on special teams. We are going to have to do that, and we can't turn the ball over, period. If we give this offense extra possessions, it's going to be a very long day. So we got to limit their big plays, make them drive, make them earn it. And then we've got to take care of the football on offense. And then the flip, we've got to make some of those chunk plays on our own. And we were talking about it earlier. When you step up in competition and you play a caliber like IUP, we're going to have to do some things to generate momentum. And it's not like we don't have those big play capabilities on offense. We've shown that. And not only have we shown that, we've shown it against Cal. We've shown it against Shepherd. We got to step up and make some plays on the offensive side of the football, and we have the ability to do that. So we're going to have to make those plays, not give them up, and then the turnover battle to me is going to be huge. They don't turn it over. And the other thing is if you look at they're number 1 in the league consistently every year in not giving up sacks. And that's a great job, and that starts with Coach Campolo and that offensive line. We're going to have to generate some pressure. We're going to have to get them behind the sticks and get after their quarterback, which doesn't see a whole lot of that. So, we're going to go out. We're going to game plan this thing. I can tell you this. We're really excited about the opportunity, the number 15 team coming in here in the country, and let's go out and play. Our guys are excited about it. We've got a pretty bad taste in our mouth from Saturday, and the one thing, if you look at us, Joe, throughout the season is, we win and then we'd lose. We'd win and then we'd lose. So the bounce back is really what I'm looking for. I told our guys today, get back on the horse and let's start riding. It's a new opportunity with a new challenge, and it doesn't get any bigger than the number 1 team in the PSAC West coming in to play us at Sox Harrison Stadium on Saturday.
Yeah, certainly that's the case. We're looking forward to that. Pre-game show will start at 11 o'clock on the Fighting Scots Radio Network, presented by ErieInjury.com. The Hobbs Lumber pregame 1 hour beforehand. Coach, appreciate it. We'll do it again next week.
Absolutely, bud. Thanks a lot, Joe.
All right. Thanks, everybody, here at the Edinburgh Hotel. It's Jake Nulph Show. We'll talk to you next week.
Go Burrow.